I'm going to be using this video to do a very quick installation and usage of FilePile. So for the purposes of this video, all I want to do is copy one file into a specific project that I'm working on. But you could use FilePile and the same technique to copy multiple files from a gist or an entire GitHub repository if you wanted to. This becomes useful when you are working on multiple projects and you end up using the same files, whether it be, traits or, maybe certain classes or something like that, in between each one of those projects, and maybe it's not worth building a package over. You just see yourself end up copying these files over and over and over again. FilePile helps us do that. So all I want to do in this project is I already have a basic Laravel install, and what I want to do is take a gist file, and all this is right now is just one random HTML file, and all I want to do is copy this into any project that I'm working on. So FilePile is going to give us a simple command to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I have an account at FilePile. So I'm going to go over to register. There we go, and I'm all set up, so I have an account. So it starts us right on the My Piles page, and this is where you would add any piles to your account. And all a pile is a link to a repository, a group of files or a single file that you're going to be copying into your projects. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started by just saying create a new pile. The pile name is just going to be, we'll say random file. The slug, I'm going to put random all lowercase. You can see here what the slug would represent is the actual command that's going to be installing this. For the default install path, now I want to make sure that I put this in the right spot. I want to be able to go to callahanautoparts.app/random.html, and that should bring up my file. So in order to do that, I need to make sure that this HTML file gets stored in the public directory. So to do that, I'm just going to say project directory/public. For the post install message, this could be whatever you want it to say after it's done copying those files over. And sometimes this could be, just the message done or completed. Or in some cases, it could be a reminder. Maybe you have to do something next after that file's been installed. Maybe you have to connect it in some way. In any case, all I'm going to say is now you can go to /random.html and it should work. So now you can go to /random.html, create pile. So then the last thing I need to do for this pile is just make sure that my file repository is linked up. And all that means is I just want to make sure I go to this gist file, copy the URL, and I'm just clicking here to add and pasting that URL in. So now my pile is set up so that when I run this command, it's going to pull any files associated with this gist into my project. So now obviously I didn't do anything to my project yet, so there's no way that this command would work. So the next thing I need to do, if I just go back to my piles, I can see that we have an integration section here for Laravel, and that's just going to bring you to the Laravel integration package for linking your project with the FilePile API. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this require statement for Composer, and that's going to install our package into the Callahan Autoparts system. And you can see the next step here is since I'm using Laravel 5.5 for this, I don't need to do this register service provider. If you're using something like 5.4 or lower, you'll just want to make sure that you copy this over into your config/app.php. So my next step for this is I need an API key so that FilePile knows which account it's trying to talk to for this package. I'm going to go to FilePile and go to My Account API Keys. And for the token name, I'm just going to call this Callahan Auto Parts, the project that I'm working on. I hit create, and there we go. So I have an API key. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. And then you'll see this goes in your .env file for your project as FilePile underscore key equals your API key. So let's go ahead and do that. Open up .env, and we'll say FilePile key equals that key that I just copied. Great, so let me go ahead and go back to my project. If I look at Composer, it finished installing FilePile, and again, because I'm using Laravel 5.5, we have that package discovery in place, so I don't need to add the service provider. So now if I just go ahead and run PHP Artisan, you should see that we have these new FilePile commands install and list in our project. So if I just run PHP Artisan FilePile list, what that's going to do is list out any piles that I have hooked up to my account. So you can tell it's looking at our account correctly because it found our random pile that we had set up. So now I can go ahead and run that command. So let's give that a try. PHP Artisan FilePile install, and the pile that I want to install, we gave that the slug random. So I'll say install random. So right off the bat, we can see this is working correctly because I can see that we defined public, the public directory, as where that should install. But I could override that if I wanted to. So every time I'm making a new project, maybe I don't want that to always be the same folder, or maybe in certain cases I want to override that. I could do that here. In this case, the default is fine. I want that to install into the public directory, so I'll hit enter. And that's telling me FilePile is about to write the following files, public/random.html. Everything looks good, so I'll hit yes. And there we go. So now it says our message that we wrote at the bottom here. Now you can go to /random.html. That looks fantastic. And you can see now if I go to callahanautoparts.app/random.html,
Holy shnikes.
everything works. Now, one last thing you might want to do during this setup process is to go into FilePile and link your GitHub account. And the reason we want to do this is because without any sort of authentication, GitHub's going to limit you. So if you were doing this a lot and if you were using FilePile to pull in a lot of different GitHub repository files, you're eventually going to hit a limit. And that's going to prevent you from pulling any more than, I think the request limit is 50. So even if you're not pulling 50 files specifically, FilePile might be making certain requests to your GitHub repository, and that's going to cause issues. So you might just want to go to the My Account GitHub integration page, and that's just going to authorize FilePile to your GitHub to read any public data. So you can just authorize, and there you go. So now whenever you're pulling in new files from GitHub, it's going to all go through their API using your credentials.